So today I want to talk about that as we've been talking about wealth creation and creating wealth, that I realize, so in order for us to create wealth, because wealth is so much a part of our lives, how many do you realize that when God made the earth, he put everything we needed for wealth in the earth? Genesis chapter 2 lets us know that there was gold there and bdellium there. And so it tells us the natural resources. I want you to know that land is wealth. Okay? Land is the only true wealth because in land is the resources of all that we have need of. And when God enters into covenant, what he gives you is land. That's what he does. So land represents wealth. And land is the only true wealth that can be passed on. But we need to know how to utilize or create wealth so that we can establish God's covenant in the earth. God wants his covenant, which is that all the families of the earth should be what? Blessed. Not just some families, but all the families in the earth. But while I'm on the, I just wanted to put this out there because it's getting ridiculous. When you get a phone call, okay, on your phone, and they say to you, "This is CRA," CRA ain't gonna call you. They communicate through mail. Okay. Also, when they tell you that we've got a package, so hang up the phone. It may be legit, but just hang up the phone. They know how to get the package to you. Okay, they will send you an email and let you know whatever, and you can track your own package. So any delivery, or say this is the bank, and they want. Say that there's some transactions and we just need some banking information. No. Don't you ever give out your banking information over the phone. Ever. Not by email, not by phone. The banks won't do that. Now, they will phone you, say that we have an offer, say for a credit offer and things like that, but they don't need to ask you your information. They already have your information, and they don't need you to confirm your bank account information because they have it right in front of them. Right? So do not, because that's just Satan's way to separate you from your finances. Okay? I just wanted to do that because we've never really done that disclaimer. That's the disclaimer. Don't deal with your transactions over the phone. Okay? Okay, so let's get into the message. So in order for us to create wealth, according to the word of God, we've got to do three things. Three things. One, retrain, reinvest, reclaim. Say that with me. Retrain, reinvest, reclaim. Say that again. Retrain, reinvest, and reclaim. And so that's what we're going to talk about over the next few weeks. We're going to talk about how to retrain, reclaim, and to retrain, reinvest, and reclaim. Okay? That's what we are going to do because we've got to remember. So what we're going to do is retrain our brain, reinvest our money, and reclaim our wealth. Retrain our brain, reinvest our money, and reclaim our wealth. So why am I separating money from wealth? Again, money is not wealth. Money is just a tool to create wealth. Money is just a tool to manage your wealth. But money is not wealth. A lot of people have money, but they don't have wealth. All right? They do not have wealth. There are billions of people working on this planet for money, but doesn't have wealth. Because wealth is, according to the Bible, is you having enough to meet your needs and more than enough to give into every good work. Wealth is also generational. Okay? So wealth If after a person dies and they have nothing to pass on to the next generation, they had money, but they never had wealth. You follow me? Okay, so those are the three things we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks. So the first step in wealth creation, you've got to what? Retrain your brain. So that's what we're going to do. You've got to retrain your brain. Okay, so we're going to look at a video because this video is well, you can watch the video. Can we have the lights off and you can show the video?
Multi-level marketing companies like Herbalife, Avon, LuLaRoe, and Amway are often mischaracterized as pyramid schemes, an illegal structure whereby people pay a fee and then try to make their money back by taking a share of the fees that the new members pay to join the scheme under them. But I, in good faith, can no longer sit by and watch the good reputation of pyramid schemes be ruined by comparisons to multi-level marketing companies. MLMs are not pyramid schemes. They are worse.
An internal document in Herbalife where they made the case for pursuing this market. People who make $2 a day, $5 a day. And so you have a company based in the United States that decided to target this population with a business opportunity which itself is a fraud.
You have probably all heard of MLMs by now. Maybe you have been pitched the amazing business opportunity by a friend or colleague, or maybe you are part of the 8% of Americans who have been part of one of these schemes in their life.
I ended up being in Amway Ltd for 2.5 years. And in that time, I only sponsored one person. I lost about $18,000 in the process of...
The business structure of every multi-level marketing company is slightly different, and the same companies use different structures in different markets to skirt around local regulations, but the basic concept remains the same. You sign up and join the company as an independent business owner. You pay a fee which can range from $20 to $5,000, depending on the company. For that money, you get given a simple pack of the company's products. You are encouraged to sell these products at a markup like a traditional business, but you are also told to sign up friends and family under you to share a cut of their commission. Commission structures are intentionally made confusing so that new recruits can't understand how badly they are being screwed. Most of the money gets funneled to the very top of the program to people that will flash a lot of money around as proof that the system is working. If you think this sounds like a pyramid scheme, you're not alone. Even the Federal Trade Commission, after it concluded a year-long investigation into Herbalife, the third largest MLM in the world, concluded that the company was not determined to be a pyramid scheme.
For embattled company Herbalife, the Federal Trade Commission will not classify it as a pyramid scheme, but in return, Herbalife will pay a settlement of $200 million.
But really, these companies are a lot worse for 3 reasons. The first reason all comes down to what actually legally separates them from a fraudulent pyramid scheme: their products. One of the most powerful lobbying groups in America and around the world is the MLM industry. Herbalife, just one of hundreds of MLM companies, spent $810,000 on federal lobbying in 2021 alone. The legal argument is that money only changes hands when a product is sold, so they are no different from commissioned salesmen. Unfortunately, it's exactly that product that makes MLM so much worse than pyramid schemes. The average return for a victim of a pyramid scheme is a reduction in 10% of their invested capital, or 90% of what they invested. For every $1 a victim puts into the scheme, they can expect a return of 90 cents. A bad investment, but not financially crippling. The returns remain surprisingly high because early investors get paid out, and when the whole thing falls apart, the money really hadn't gone anywhere, and a portion of it can be recovered by authorities and returned to victims. Bernie Madoff ran the world's largest Ponzi scheme, and even most of his investors ended up getting most of their money back because after Madoff used the money to buy a penthouse apartment, a private jet, and a house in the Hamptons, he had nothing left to do besides keeping it in the bank and paying it out to investors.
I thought I would never see the money again.
Pyramid schemes are different to Ponzi schemes, but the results are the same. However, the average return of a multi-level marketing company is around 30% of their invested capital according to their own marketing materials promoting their bonus structure. That means that someone joining an MLM company would be 3 times more likely to make money by signing up to a fraudulent pyramid scheme. The actual returns for most people are far lower than 30%, and sometimes even the highest ranks of MLM members struggle financially, but we will get to that soon. The reason the numbers are so bad is because of the product. For the people at the very top of the MLM to collect everybody's money legally, they need to move a lot of products. But the product has overhead that siphons money out of the scheme. Some money goes to manufacture and ship the products, and some money goes to the MLM company itself. MLM products are priced well above market competitors, even after the discount given to their members because the companies need to add the overhead to pay out bonuses. Product quality from these companies is also a common complaint amongst former members. The companies themselves use their members to promote their business. The main way that members sell the business to other would-be members is by promoting business opportunity as a way to make additional income or achieve financial freedom. Since the products are merely a side though to provide legal protection, there is a little pressure for the companies to make their products, good. Somehow, having returns 3 times worse than the most infamous corporate fraud in history is only reason 1. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why multi-level marketing companies are actually much worse than pyramid schemes. The second reason why MLMs are worse than pyramid schemes is because even the people at the very top of these companies don't make their fortunes from the business itself. The most effective marketing for these companies is the lavish lifestyle of their high-ranking members that will be splashed all over social media and shown off at the company-wide seminars. To further sell this image of financial freedom and a luxury lifestyle, the companies will award members with arbitrary ranks within the company. For Amway, it works. Kayuani and Usana, these ranks are named after precious gemstones, ruby, sapphire, emerald, and diamond. For Herbalife, the ranks are ironically named after executive positions in a normal company: supervisor, president, chief executive, and founder. High-ranking members will be awarded with additional bonuses and perks like free cars, expensive jewelry, and luxury vacations to exotic locations. They are obviously encouraged to show off these perks as further proof of their financial success. But even at the very top of a scheme, a lot of members struggle financially. All MLM companies operating in America are required to provide income disclosure statements that display the earnings of their members. Amway, the largest MLM company in the world, reports that the top 1% of their independent business owners make an average revenue of $87,422 and median revenue of $56,096. Those numbers are slightly above typical for an entry-level professional, but that is just revenue. In an alarming amount of cases, it's the people in the top 1% of these schemes that lose out the most financially. As part of running a multi-level marketing business, independent business owners are expected to spend a lot on the company's products for their own personal consumption. Representatives often espouse lines like becoming a product of a product. Monthly spending on these products can be hundreds of dollars. In addition to this expense, high-ranking members are expected to spend money on material displays of wealth to lure people into the lucrative business opportunity. In order to maintain their artificial rank, members of MLMs are also required to maintain a level of business volume every month. Members are conditioned to cover these arbitrary ranks by the company and other members in the scheme. Motivated by the fear of losing their rank, members will make up the difference by personally purchasing extra products that they convince themselves they can sell later at a markup.
You make a little, not much, not enough to pay the bills that are racking up. You make money from signing people up.
This creates a problem so common that it has its own name: garage qualified, where high-level members qualify for their rank because of the boxes of product piling up in their garage.
So people buy product more than they can sell. It sits in a garage. What happens? There's got to be an endpoint here at some point.
When they run out of money, there's an end.
The financial figures seen on the FTC disclosure statements are top-line revenue figures, and do not account for all additional expenses, which means even top members end up struggling financially. Back when Vice was good, they conducted a series of interviews with former top representatives from LuLaRoe, a multi-level marketing company that sold clothing and accessories. The women, who were all at one point in the top 1% of the company, were financially destitute after running up credit card debt to keep up appearances for people beneath them in the business. They, like LuLaRoe and Vice Media for that matter, are all now bankrupt. But maybe I'm not being totally fair here. There are a few people in these schemes that do make millions of dollars every year, not just in revenue, but in bottom line profit. The only problem for everybody else is that they don't make it by working the business. Roughly, the top 50 members from every company have all figured out one way to reliably make money in an MLM, and it is obviously at the expense of everyone else.
You are not selling clothes. You are giving people freedom. You are giving people life. You are giving people hope. You are giving people confidence.
I wasn't alone in receiving merchandise that I just was not able to sell to anyone because it was crap.
A business that is full of people that want to get rich quick and look up to high-ranking members as role models and mentors is the perfect opportunity to sell overpriced books, seminars, and courses. Top members in MLMs will host conferences, where aspiring members can pay hundreds or even thousands of dollars to attend weekend events to listen to live speeches by top-ranking members. In addition to these events, members will be encouraged to buy books and CDs to share with other people they try to recruit. For the people at the top, it's a win-win. Only it's them that's winning twice. They generate additional revenue with much higher margins by selling tickets to these events, and the whole thing is set up to make people more invested in the business opportunity that they sit at the top of. Unfortunately for everybody else in the scheme, the seminars, books, courses, CDs, and training sessions become yet another expense that reduces their already modest income. The third reason that multi-level marketing companies are worse than pyramid schemes is because they intentionally do much more than just financial damage. New recruits in multi-level marketing companies are told to leverage their existing contact network of friends and family members to find customers to sell product to or to sign up as members themselves underneath them. Unless you have been living under a rock, you have probably already heard about multi-level marketing companies and their damaging business practices, and so has everybody else, so finding people willing to support the scheme is harder than most new recruits expect. The groups most open to multi-level marketing companies are therefore isolated cultural groups that are less aware of this industry's reputation or are inherently more trusting of their own community. The business structure of multi-level marketing companies doesn't form the shape of a pyramid. They actually form the shape of multiple pyramids, each with a charismatic leader at the top. These groups, or networks as they are called, are heavily segregated by race and religion. Companies will develop Mormon teams, Latin American teams, African American teams, and Asian American teams, as the dream of the business can be sold by using customs and pressures unique to each culture.
Opportunity for anybody, everybody. And Latinos grabbed it a little stronger. All of a sudden, all the non-Latinos are seeing these guys rise up, making money, getting recognition, and going, whoa, what are they doing?
Mormons are overrepresented in MLM companies because the culture values women staying home to raise children. This gives them few opportunities to earn an income for themselves, making the MLM pitch of making money from home more enticing. Mormons also have a strong social network of other Mormons who inherently trust one another, so these schemes do very well in this community. There are over 70 MLM companies located in Utah alone. Multi-level marketing companies are also overrepresented in migrant communities. When moving to a new country, most migrants want to find people they can socialize with and ways to make additional income. MLMs pretend to offer both. Since the whole system is built around social relationships, it can be very hard for people to leave the scheme after they figure out that they will never make money. Members are told to cut off communications with friends or family who don't join the business or buy their products, because they are a negative influence on their journey to become a successful entrepreneur. The actual reason high-ranking members encourage their new recruits to do this is because they know friends and family are the people most likely to talk them out of the business. And if they can cut them off from their normal social circles, they will become dependent on the business for something more important than even money: human connection. People heavily involved in these businesses struggle to maintain any friendships outside of their network. Combined with the social pressures from letting down members of their community, it makes leaving the business extremely difficult. Pyramid schemes do ruin people financially, but they don't ruin them as badly, and they don't ruin their relationships at the same time. The bonus fourth reason why MLMs are worse than pyramid schemes is because pyramid schemes have never worked in the shadows to subvert democracy or run the world's largest mercenary organization. The two families that founded Amway have done a lot with their multi-billion-dollar fortunes, and not much of it is good. So go and watch my other video over on how history works to find out how two school friends started the world's largest MLM company, made friends with the presidents to keep it legal, and used their—
Could I have the lights back on, please? Man, well, Pastor, why did you show me that? Because multi-level marketing is capitalism on steroids. And that's why I showed you this, to show that one of the things in multi-level marketing, because I've been a part of 3 of them. So I'm not just talking from out. I've been a part of 3 of them. And one of the things that multi-level marketing to get you is the hope of financial freedom. And they will show you the cars, the vacations, the big houses, and show you things. They show you all these things. So, and that, to reach out to your social network. And the reality is, again, the capitalistic model, whether it's MLM or just a regular capitalistic model, will always benefit the top 1%. The other 99% will not make money. The problem is, in MLM, you're recruiting people to be salespeople, even though they say, well, this is not sales. It is sales, right? You're recruiting people to do sales who have no sales training at all. No sales training at all. And it's pretty much that The product is just, as he said, to keep it legitimate. There has to be a product, or it's a fraud. But when you get into, you realize we're not selling a product, we're selling a business. It's really, you don't make money off the product, you make money off getting people to come into the business. That's where you really make the money. And so, again, the lure of MLM and most MLM is you're gonna get rich quick. This speeds up your road to financial freedom. And I want you to know the Bible says riches gotten by haste shall diminish. And so anything that says you're going to get rich quick, run. Because there's no such thing as get rich quick. Lottery winners within the next 3 years are worse off than when they won the lottery. Because wealth is not about having money. Wealth is about how you manage that money. So God is not a get-rich-quick God. You see someone, well, they got wealth overnight. No, they did not. It was a process. This is God's wealth process. Which plant that you put the plant in the ground today and you got a crop tomorrow? Get-rich-quick schemes and businesses, ideas like Bitcoin. We'll talk about Bitcoin another day. But understand, it violates God's principle of sowing seed. There is a time, the first is seed, then you got the crop, then you got the ear in the crop, then you got the fruit in the grain, and then you got the full crop. It's a process. Wealth creation is a process. And God does not give you or dangle carrots or things before your eyes for you to get rich. Our purpose for wealth is not to have a big house, not to drive a big car, not to have vacations, not to fly a jet. That's not the purpose of wealth. Now, once you have wealth and you want to do those things, that's your business. But the purpose of wealth is generational continuance of that wealth and to help others come into wealth, not things. Things are not supposed to be your motivation for why you have wealth. You build wealth for generational and so that you can help others to come into wealth. And so multi-level marketing, and see, they do the very same thing that these big corporations do. Why do you need to give almost all that money to politicians? Because you need to buy them. And so understand, multi-level marketing, which presents a product, but it always comes back down to you got to bring people in. And the reality is this, that you've got to understand that at some point, all pyramid things must die. Because if you take it on its course and you go down the lines, by the get to line 15, you would have to bring the entire world population into it. That's how that would work. So it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And so capitalism, I'm going to show you a multi-level marketing. I say it's capitalism on steroids. It's not about building community wealth. It's about building personal wealth. It's about you to have financial freedom. I want you to know financial freedom is a deceptive goal. Financial freedom is not the goal. God's goal is what? That you have enough to meet your needs and more than enough to give into every good what? work. So let's look at this. So we're going to look at today, because we got to change our mindset. And what I'm going to show you that how our entire economic system that we are a part of is wrong. It's not Bible. Let's look at capitalism and communism, the two pretty much economic systems that our world functions on. Okay. So capitalism. Capitalism is a system where every person is responsible for their own financial well-being. In this system, profit is prioritized above all else. Power is sought only to maximize profits. That's why they want government. That's why they want control of government, so that they can maximize profit. So in capitalism, profit is God. It is prioritized above all else, regardless who gets hurt. It doesn't matter if the planet is destroyed. It doesn't matter if people get sick. It doesn't matter if everybody's lives are ruined. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the poor is oppressed, as long as you get what? Profits what? Grow. Think about this in the stock market. In order for your stock to go up, you have to make profits every single year. Now, forget every year, every quarter, every 3 months. And I want you to know they fix their books. Because how in the world do you make profit? I mean, you can't, because you know that if you even get a hint that you're not going to reach the profit guidance before the market even opens up, your stock is dying. They never made any money, so. But understand that capitalism makes profit God. Profit is important. It doesn't matter if you're going to pick up out of a town and lay off 8,000 people so you can take your company to China. It doesn't matter that 8,000 people are now out of work because you can pay the people in China less money, or Mexico, or Taiwan, or Indonesia, or India. It doesn't matter. But one thing that capitalism does encourage is creativity, innovation, dignity, and discipline. But this is the catch. What it does, it will exploit your creativity, exploit your innovation, and exploit your need for dignity to increase its profits, but not paying you what you should be getting. That's capitalism. Well, let's look at communism. Communism, the government is responsible for everyone's well-being. It controls healthcare, housing, education, and every aspect of life. But instead of lifting people up, the government keeps the poor poor. Why? To maintain control. Communism, however, unlike capitalism, kills creativity, kills innovation, and destroys dignity. Why? Because these are threats to their what? Control. They want state control. So in communism, government is God. The state is God. It understands he who serves the people will control the people. And so that leads us now to the other oppression. So capitalism is oppressive because it doesn't care about you. It just cares about what? Profit for the top. And then the communism doesn't care about profit. It cares about control. But both of them oppress. Let's look at taxes. Taxes is a form of a wage oppression. Deuteronomy 24:14-15 says, "You shall not oppress the hired servant who is poor and needy, whether one of your brethren or one of the aliens who is in your land within your gates. Each day you shall give him his wages." Not part of it, not 80% of it, not 90% of it, not 99% of it. Each day you shall give him your wages. In other words, if you worked for $100, get how much you should get. and not let the sun go down on it, for he is poor and has set his heart on it, lest he cries against you to the Lord, and it be sin to you. Now, listen to this. Now, there's before our present day, the main form of world economy is feudalism. Does anybody know what feudalism is? Okay. So feudalism was set up really so the kings pretty much owned the land. And what the king would do would grant land to their lords, to the landowners. And the lords was committed to protect the king. And these landowners now would rent out the land to the peasants. The problem is that whether you make crop or don't make crop, whether you make money or not, you got to pay the landowners. So when the king now required taxes from everybody, why? To maintain their what? Lifestyle and to fight wars. So that was the feudalism and taxism. And the problem is that became so oppressive that people revolted. That's why you had all the revolts with the French Revolution and different things like that. But the problem is, guess what feudalism was replaced with? Capitalism. They just changed the landowners to guess what? Employers. And guess who the peasants were? Employees. And so the landowners still control the wealth, and the peasants, the workers, still worked hard for the landowners and had to pay taxes to the king. Today we have socialistic capitalism. We live in Canada is a socialistic capitalism in the sense that it's the government does intervene in some aspects of our lives. But what happened because capitalism, stay with me, because capitalism was so oppressive, communism was birthed because the workers were being oppressed. And so the worker says, enough. That's where unions were born. Enough of the oppression. They're working 7 days a week. They revolted. And so that was the birth of Marxism, socialism, this workers' rights. And then full-blown, we get communism. And in communism, this is, and so when we look, and so communism was a response to the oppression of capitalism, but it still turned around oppressing workers too. Why? Because it's built on a faulty system. Watch this. So in our socialistic capitalism is what we mostly have around the world. The working poor, because that's what you are. You're the working poor, no matter how much money, because this is why you're the working poor. The working poor are taxed from 30 to 50% of their income, meaning they work a significant portion of their lives for the government before earning for themselves. So for most of us, especially if you're a high income earner over 100,000, you don't start working for yourself until after June. So until January to June, you are working for the government. After that, that's when you start working for yourself. So all the wages you earned from January to June, went to the government. Sometimes more than that. And sometimes you're gone into July. And for the average person, they work from January to April, May for the government. That's the system that you work in. Now, but the thing is, in capitalism, however, that top 1%, the employers, because They control who is in power in government. They set up rules so that that 1% pay minimal taxes. I want you to know the billionaires pay less in taxes than the people who work for them. Listen, it's now poor people that can pay for $1 billion in ad fees for presidential candidates. It's the rich that determine who runs the country. And so they make sure that they put tax loopholes. So they tax the poor, working poor. And so the rich, they minimize the amount of taxes. Sometimes, while they're done, they pay no taxes. Why? We got to maximize profits. In communism or strict socialism, people are taxed 50 to 100%, effectively entirely working for the government. There's no private land ownership, no financial power, and no inheritance. All of this is contrary to the word of God. Proverbs 13:22 says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. How are you going to leave an inheritance to your children's children if you can't own land? Deuteronomy 8:18 lets us know, and you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he that gives you the power to get wealth, not the government. God, not the government, gives you the power to get wealth. Now, was there tax in Israel? Yes, it's called the temple tax. So the temple tax, now, before Israel had a king, the only tax they had was a temple tax, which was a half a shekel. Now, half a shekel, when I try to figure out today's money and that money, it was less than 1% of what a person earned all year. And it was because it was to ensure that the temple wasn't maintained. Are you with me? Stay with me now. Stay with me. Less than 1% of your increase was collected. So Israel wanted to have a king. So let's see what happens from a temple tax that where you are paying less than 1% of your increase. This is what happens when you get a king. This is what happens when you get a world government. Samuel chapter 8, 4-5. Says 4 to 5 says, then and then 10-20 says, then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, look, you are old and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like the nations. Verse 10. So Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people who asked him for a king, and he said, this will be the behavior of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for his own chariots and to be his horsemen, and some will run before his chariots. He will appoint captains over his thousands and captains over his 50s. Will set some to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and some to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will take your daughters to be perfumers, cooks, and bakers, and he will take the best of your fields, your vineyards, your olive groves, and give them to his servants. He will take a tenth of your grain and your vintage and give it to his officers and servants. And he will take your male servants, your female servants, your finest young men, and your donkeys and put them to his work. He will take a tenth of your sheep, and you will be his servants. And you will cry out in that day because of your king, whom you have chosen for yourselves, and the Lord will not hear you in that day. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel. And they said, no, but we will have a king over us anyways, that we also may be like the nations, that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. He's talking about dumb. Like, it's like he already told you what the king's going to do, and you're going to do it. Like, but remember, folks, they owned all of that. And he said the king is going to take all of that and make it yours. And he's going to take the tithe. He's going to take a tenth of your this and a tenth of your that and a tenth of your next thing and then take your daughters. We want a king anyways. See, the temple tax was the same for the rich and the poor. It wasn't a percentage. A tax should not be a percent. When you put percentages on tax, it's oppressive. And so the tax was less than 1% of the poorest person. It was less than 1% of the poorest person. And understand that the tithe, excuse me, no, I'm not jumping in. Okay. So should we pay taxes? Let's look at Romans chapter 13, 1-6 quickly. Should we pay taxes? And why should we pay taxes? Let every soul be subject to the governing authorities, but there is no authority except from God, and the authorities that exist is appointed by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authority resists the ordinance of God, and those who resist will bring judgment on themselves. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? For what is good? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same, for he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. For he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil. Therefore you must be subject, not only because of wrath, but because of conscience sake. For because of this you also pay taxes, for they are God's ministers, attending continually to this very thing. So, in other words, we are to pay taxes so that we have people to do what? To take care of what? Public interest. Law enforcement. Law enforcement. To ensure that we have security. That's it. Not for them to fly planes and all over the place. Not for them to do all the crazy stuff they do. But to ensure that we have sanitation, that we have security. What is the, now we talked about communism and capitalism, and so what's the alternative? What do we do? The Bible does have an alternative. There is an alternative. This is the alternative. It's called what I call cooperatism. Cooperatism. It is where we are our brother's keeper. The tithe is how we ensure that we are our brother's keeper. The tithe, not taxes, is to ensure that we have health care, education, that we have a social network. Look, 2 Corinthians 8:15 says, as it is written, he who gathered much had nothing left over, and he who gathered little had no what? Lack. Acts 4:32 says, now the multitude of those who believed were of one heart and one soul. Neither did any say that any of the things he possessed was his own, but they had all things in what? Common. Deuteronomy 26:12-13 shows us that the tithe is the social net, not taxes. The tithe. When you have finished laying aside all the tithe of your increase in the third year, the year of tithing, and have given it to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat within your gates and be filled, then you shall say before the Lord your God, I have removed the holy tithe from my house, and also have given them to the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, according to all your commandments which you have commanded me. I have not transgressed your commandment, nor have I forgotten them. We, not the government, not our employers, are responsible for the well-being of each other. The Bible shows us that we are to have wise stewardship, fair labor, just wages, and leave an inheritance, not exploitation through capitalism or total government control through communism. Proverbs 13:11 says, wealth gained by dishonesty will be diminished. Wealth gained through exploitation and wage injustice is dishonest. Why? Because you're not being paid what you deserve. Leviticus 19:13 says, you shall not cheat your neighbor nor rob him. The wages of him who is hired shall not remain with you all night until the morning. Listen, the company that you work for retains a part of your wages and then gives it to the government. Your corporations are tax collectors for the government. And so you're not paid what you're supposed to. Corporations, governments have no right. It is illegal for governments to withhold your wages. The company should not withhold money from you. If you work for $1,000, you're supposed to take home $1,000. But they create these schemes, like government benefits and all these things. Listen to me. Think about it. If you got to keep all your wages, you'd have more than enough money to take care of your benefits. If you got to keep all your money, you wouldn't need the dental plan, no benefit plan. Because think about it. They're taking, listen, you're paying. If you look at your benefits, you're probably paying anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 a year that they take out between the government and a company and you. They take all that money out. You don't spend that much money a year on the most time. You don't spend that much money. It's really a tax. Benefits is just another tax. The whole system is set up. So both capitalism, which prioritizes profits over people, profits over the planet, and then you have communism, which prioritizes control over freedom. So what is the biblical model? Oh, I'm excited about this. What is the biblical model? It's been right before our eyes. This biblical model provides wage justice, compassion, and personal responsibility for community. You know what the model for cooperativism is? The family farm. The family farm. What's the family farm? The family farm is a perfect example of cooperation. A system where every family member has a stake in the business and everyone shares in its profits. This reflects God's original plan where every person was meant to be part of a productive enterprise. There was no retirement plan. The only way you retire is if you die. And if man never sinned, there would not be no retirement, because you don't retire from family business. When God made man, the first business he established was a family business called the farm. There was no employers, no employees. Everyone worked on the farm and benefited equally from its increase. This was God's original plan, his intention. But because of sin ruined it. We now have employers that make up the top 1%, sometimes 3%, but the top 1% mostly. And then we have the 99% that work for them. If we didn't have sin, we would not have feudalism, communism, or capitalism. Think about this. Think about this for a moment. When Israel went into the land of Canaan, every family got what? Land. All they had to do was go and possess it. Every family had land. Every family. God established every family with a family business called the farm on a piece of land. That's what God is. And so When you were born into the family business. Watch this. You didn't become a business owner. You were born a business owner. All you needed to do was to learn how to be one. See, I want to own a business. You didn't have that. That thought never went in your mind. Why? Because you were born a business owner. The moment you pushed out of that womb, you owned a business. You owned land. And guess what? The moment you came out of that womb, you started to get milk from your mama. You started to get grain from the land. You started to benefit from your business. But what happened? What happened? Urbanization happened. People start moving to cities. And society moved away from this model. Instead of each person being both a worker and a business owner, many now became laborers for others without sharing in the profits. But biblically, everyone should be involved in a business, both working in it and benefiting from it. This aligns with stewardship, shared prosperity, and economic justice. The biblical model is family business built on a cooperative where every worker benefits from the profits of that company. But the modern shift, that was a family farm. But the modern shift, urbanization, pattern broken. We now have employers and employees. But we got to go back to the biblical solution. Everyone must become and be a worker and a business owner. We have no business opening businesses as employers. And so one of the things in one of the seminars, I'm going to bring somebody in to teach us about cooperative business. Where do we get this from? Luke 19, 12 to 13 says. Luke 19, 12 to 13. It says, therefore he said, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. So he called 10 of his servants, delivered to them 10 minutes, and said to them, do business till I come. Every single one of us was to be business owners. We're not to be employers. We're supposed to be a part of enterprises where everybody is a worker. Not the top guy making 3,000 times the bottom guy. Do you know that there's some companies where the top person makes 3,000 times the person at the bottom? That is wickedness. But that's the system we have. So we've got to what? Retrain our brain and realize that all of us are to do business. Not capitalism, not communism. All of us should be doing business. And so now we got to retrain our brain. Rethink our brain. We got to stop thinking like employees and start to think like business owners. And realize that all of us, have been hoodwinked into an oppressive system that we can't wait to retire from. Retirement is not of God. Because how do you retire from your family business? Hey, Dad, I don't want to be a part of this family no more. I want to go broke. So, what do we do? So we're going to talk about how now to establish the business mindset and the function as a business by reinvesting our money. We retrain our brain. I'm a business. You were born to be a business person. You were not born to be an employee. You see, I mentioned about quickly about back to black, and I'll tell you the concept quickly. Back to black. I'm going to start an organization, Back to Black, a nonprofit organization, and what is going to be the purpose of it is to fund cooperative businesses where at least 3 people come together, because cooperative have at least 3 people come together, have a business that come together and form a business, whether that be a healthcare business or daycare business or whatever business, a software business, a technology business, research business. At least 3 people come together, and we will fund those businesses, but we will only fund businesses that are built on the cooperative model where all the workers have equal say and stake in the company and in the profits of that company. Well, he didn't retire. He didn't retire. He was still a part of the family business. He just went rogue. Right? So the only way to retire is to retire, which is to die. You're still a part of the business. Right? Because all of that stuff was still waiting for him. It was still there. Even though he took a portion, the farm was still producing. And so he came back, guess what? He stepped right back into production. Why? Because he was still a part of it. He didn't have to, like, can I get my job back? No. There's no getting your job back. You never leave this business. Even if you went rogue, you don't leave it. You just don't reap the benefits while you're rogue. And he said, what am I doing? Even my this father's servants eat better than this. And he went back there. What are you? You're not a servant. You're a son. You're part of this. And so, again, retrain your brain and realize the employee situation that you are in is not what God intended for you to be. And you see, some people come out, like in the States, there's this lady, she's a multimillionaire. She was a nurse, and she realized there's only so much she could do as a nurse. But she entered, and what she now did was she started her own nurse recruitment agency. But she's built it upon the capitalistic model, where she's the head, rather than how she should have built it, is to come together with a bunch of nurses. Get a bunch, I'd say like 10 nurses. Let's come together and form this agency. And we will go. And so instead of this one woman, this black woman, one woman reaping the benefits of the work of those nurses that she sends out, all 12 of those nurses would reap the benefits of going out. See the model? See the model? See the model? And so that's what we need to do. And that's what we're going to do. It's time for us to make a shift, to come out of the employee mindset into the business owner mindset. And that's what we're endeavoring to do over the next few weeks. Are you with me? You with me? Hallelujah.